While the rest of the world is obsessed with grinding, hustling, and filling every waking second with productivity, there is a massive group of people who just don't care. They have discovered the power of doing absolutely nothing, finding that their brains are simply wired differently than the 60% of people who follow high arousal social trends religiously. They're the ones who find more excitement in a quiet Saturday with zero obligations than in a high energy social event. But this isn't about being lazy or boring. According to neuroscience, your brain might actually be wired to require these moments of stillness just to function properly. This preference comes down to something called optimal arousal theory. You see, extroverts often recharge by being around the noise and chaos of other people. But if you are someone who prefers solitude, your nervous system is likely wired for low stimulation. For you, every social interaction, even the ones you actually enjoy, slowly drains your internal battery. Home isn't just a place to sleep, it's the only charger that actually works for your brain. There is also a psychological need for control at play here. Out there, the world is fundamentally unpredictable. You're dealing with loud strangers, sudden plan changes, and small talk with people who don't truly care about your answer. But at home, you are the architect of your environment. You control the lighting, the noise level, and the overall vibe. For someone with high sensitivity, being able to curate your environment isn't a luxury, it is a vital survival mechanism. It provides the psychological safety your brain needs to finally exit alert mode and enter a state of true restorative rest. Interestingly, research suggests that this doing nothing is often when your brain is actually doing its most important work. Studies show that people who enjoy solitude tend to be more creative and better at solving complex problems. The best ideas rarely surface in a crowded room. They are born in those quiet, introspective moments, or even during a thought spiral at 2 a.m. Your inner world is rich enough that you don't need the external world to constantly provide your entertainment. So, if you're someone who turns down invitations without feeling guilty, or who feels genuinely happy on a solo Saturday, you aren't broken. You are just wired for depth over noise and peace over performance. You've realized that you don't need external victories to feel successful because your self esteem is more stable and less dependent on things you can't control. Here's the thing that most productivity gurus won't tell you: your brain is a high energy organ that never truly shuts off, but it does have different operating modes. When you are constantly on, responding to texts, hitting deadlines, or even just scrolling through sports highlights, your brain is stuck in a state of high arousal. For many people, especially those with what psychologists call a low stimulation preference, this constant noise eventually drains their mental battery until they hit a wall. This brings us to the first layer of why you feel the need to retreat: the biology of stillness. Humans are tribal creatures, and for thousands of years, being alert and connected meant survival. When you engage with the world, your brain often releases dopamine, the same chemical triggered by the unpredictability of a sports game or a slot machine. It's addictive, but constant dopamine hits lead to burnout. People who gravitate towards stillness often have dopamine systems that simply aren't triggered by vicarious competition or external social noise. Because they don't rely on external victories to feel successful, their self esteem remains more stable and far less dependent on things completely outside their control. But there's a second layer here, and it's about empathy allocation. Society tells us that caring means being involved in everything: social causes, the latest drama, or the big game. But everyone has a limited capacity for deep empathy. When you take a break from the world, you aren't turning off your care, you are reallocating it. Research suggests that individuals with a low interest in external competition often score significantly higher in openness to experience and a genuine love for art and beauty. Instead of chasing outward noise, they find connection and transcendence within their own ideas, nature, and creative projects. Their reward system isn't broken. It's simply finding a deeper sense of meaning in their inner world rather than through the lens of a spectator. However, here is where it gets messy. Sometimes the desire to do nothing can feel like a defense mechanism. If the world feels too loud, too unpredictable, or too aggressive, home becomes the only place where you have total control over the lighting, the noise, and the vibe. For those who are highly sensitive, this control isn't a luxury, it's survival. The paradox of the Xennial, or the modern introvert, is that we live in a world that is permanently documented and searchable. We grew up in an analog world where embarrassing moments just faded into memory. But now, that natural process of forgetting is complicated by a digital landscape where everything lives forever. We've lost the ability to be truly alone with our thoughts without effort. We've lost the patience that comes from waiting. But when you consciously choose to do nothing, you are reclaiming that lost presence. You are allowing your brain to enter what psychologists call a flow state, a moment of complete absorption where you can process information and stories on your own terms. So, the next time someone asks why you're staying in or why you don't have big plans for the weekend, remember, you aren't missing out on the human experience. You are simply choosing to play a different game, one where the stakes are your own mental peace and self awareness. There is a quiet power in being an outlier. And if you've ever felt like you don't quite fit the standard mold, you are exactly where you need to be. I've put together a few other deep dives that explore exactly why being wired differently is actually your biggest advantage. From how you process information to why your need for solitude is a biological necessity. Click on one of these videos to keep exploring why you think a little differently than the crowd. I'll see you over there.